have an idea. Since it's March and St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner, I've had this idea for a watercolor four-leaf clover with the words one lucky bitch, either in hand lettering or calligraphy, TBD. But I have this idea. Come with me and see if I can make it a reality. My first step is sketching out the clover, which always sounds simple until I actually start doing it. I have this bad habit of wanting everything to be like perfect and symmetrical, which is ironic because I'm drawing something that is grown in literal dirt. So I have to actively remind myself not to overthink it. This is nature. It's not perfect, so my sketch doesn't have to be perfect either. Okay, that's good enough. Put the pencil down, Jessica. Now, this is usually the part of the video where someone explains all of their fancy art supplies, but let me just say up front, I am not a watercolor expert, so do not take my advice on supplies. I'm just starting to learn watercolor. I have no real plans to master it. This has just been my fun little 2026 project to play around with for shits and grins. So all of my supplies right now are the Artist Loft brand from Michaels. It was the cheapest option, and since, like I said, this is just for funsies, I'm not spending a lot of money just yet. I bought liquid watercolor that comes in the tubes, so I filled these pans with the liquid watercolor, and I figure like they'll just dry out and I'll reactivate them with water when I want to use them again later. Whether or not that's a good idea, I have no clue. And when I'm mixing colors, I cannot for the life of me tell what it's going to look like on paper as I'm mixing it in the pan. So I always have these little scraps of watercolor paper nearby so I can swatch all my test colors to make sure that I get it just right. For this clover, I'm going for a green that feels a little more earthy, like a greenish brownish. So I have a little bit of a leftover brown mixed already on this pan. So I'm just going to start building right on top of that. And I'm just going to start mixing colors and testing them until it like feels right. Oh, and of course, I have 2 cups of water here. Like I said, I'm not qualified to give watercolor advice, but I can confidently advise you that you should have 2 cups of water at least. One for the initial rinse to get most of the paint off, and then that second one for the final rinse. You can definitely take my advice on that. You need 2 cups of water and a paper towel. All right, once I'm done screwing around and I have a color I like, I'm going to outline the edges of the clover and then drag the pigment inward with fresh water. The vision in my head is like this gradient effect where the edges are darker and then as it gets closer to the center, it like fades out almost to white. So that's the plan. That's what we're going with. Most of this process is honestly just experimenting. I like soften the edges. I add a little more pigment where it looks a little too light. I'm just generally messing around until it feels right. Watercolor has also really been a practice in learning when the hell to stop fiddling and just let your project be done. And toward the end, I decided to try one of those cute little paint splatter finishes I see all over my Instagram, which in theory sounded great. But in reality, I ended up splattering paint all over the paper, my desk, my camera, my ring light, like literally everything has little green specks of paint all over it, which honestly was probably just user error. But that's kind of the deal when you're trying something new. Like you're just always facing this question, is this an actually terrible idea or am I just not good at it yet? Either way, now we have something that somewhat resembles a four-leaf clover. Now, for the lettering, I ended up going with a loose, wider spaced calligraphy for the lettering. Felt kind of flowy, went with the watercolor vibes. Now we have this watercolor four-leaf clover that says one lucky bitch, which I feel like is a pretty solid message for St. Patrick's Day. Wishing you all the good luck, my bitches. I'll see you in the next one.